Okay, everybody, here we go. It's me, Gregory Mannarino, Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. It looks like an explosion here on my desk. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Um, so I want to start off with something. I don't think this is going to surprise anyone. As a matter of fact, you're all going to laugh, I'm pretty sure. So this is the front page of Market Watch with our lovely creature here, part of the mechanism that is destroying every single one of us. And just read this headline. All right, is the Treasury conspiring to manipulate markets and the economy? Let's stop there for a moment. How many of you, for a second, don't believe that this is true? The Federal Reserve, okay, and the U.S. Treasury, uh, obviously working together to foster the destruction, the inflation, the meltdown of the economy, but again, doing everything that they can to prop up the market. Maintaining that illusion. Does that sound familiar to you, even a little bit? You see, because this guy, all of us here, we've been talking about the illusion of the market for quite a long time. It's astonishing to me how people, they again, the mechanism of the market is an incredible thing. People look at their 401ks, their investment plans, and the whole world is beautiful to them. The value of their home higher and higher and higher. Oh, I am so wealthy on paper. Or maybe they don't look at it as paper. They just look at it as this is real. I have this. Okay. These are not realized. So they don't care about anything else at all. It's about themselves. This is a recipe for disaster if we haven't learned anything from that. But anyway, with regard to that, so I just want to cover some of this with you, and I want you to pay attention to some of this, and I'm going to sum up what it actually means. So apparently, the Treasury is working to manipulate the market. Imagine our shock here. And I just want to read a little bit to you, and so just bear with me. So a newly published white paper is causing a stir on Wall Street and in Washington. Like our loving, caring representatives give a damn about you and me. They don't care. It's a show. And I'm going to go over more of that in just a moment here. Okay, see, by accusing the Treasury Department of conspiring to boost the economy, really, that ain't working, for a political lens. But what they're really talking about is manipulating the market. Because again, to maintain that illusion. Thanks, Mitch. The paper published just last week claims that the Treasury's decision to continue financing an outsized chunk of U.S. debt with short-term Treasury bills is tantamount to deliberate manipulation of the economy. What they really mean to say is market. Okay, you understand. First of all, you know who this person is. Janet Yellen, former Fed chairperson, understands the dark underbelly of this, the mechanism to foster debt, pull debt into the now and manipulate debt. That's all central bankers do, is manipulate debt, period. I think we're on the same page. Anyway, let's move forward. By adjusting the maturity profile of debt issuance, Treasury is dynamically managing financial conditions, going back to the market. They say an economy, but they really mean markets. Deception, of course. Over the past 9 months, the Treasury's excess issuance of bills has had an impact similar to roughly $800 billion in quantitative easing. That probably has a lot to do with what we're seeing with regard to the yield curve, just about $1 trillion, although it would take multiple trillions of dollars to push the entire yield curve down that we're seeing right now. And with regard to the 10-year yield, are you watching that? Anyway, this is also equivalent to taking 25 basis points off the 10-year yield or a full percentage point off of the federal funds rate. So I just kind of summarized what this is here. What this comes down to is further debt market manipulation. Imagine our shock. I actually wrote that, okay? For the purpose of propping up the market. This is all about the market. Has nothing to do with propping up the economy. We're already in free fall. It's all about the market. People can't survive. We've never seen anything like this before. More than 3/4 of working Americans cannot get by. They are one paycheck away from the street. I want you to think about that. I hope that's not you guys and girls here. So here I go on to say, with again, for the purpose of propping up the market, further enriching the 1% and 2%ers. That's who owns 90% of the market. Here, the Treasury, under the watchful eye of former Fed Chair Yellen, is obviously working closely with the Federal Reserve. Moreover, this mechanism, you see what they're not allowing you to know here, again, and it's always going to be buried, it's always going to be covered up, is how this mechanism, on top of everything else, is massively inflationary. And then you're going to hear how inflation is cooling and how it's tame, and it just continues to rise. And we know that. Julius, thank you. Oh, I've been talking about this forever. The military-industrial complex, the political elite. You think this is this? You can't separate any of this stuff. This is playing right into it too, as well. It should be obvious to you. So anyway, this is laughable. Obviously, you and I would expect something like this here. It's illegal, actually, what they're doing. But do you think that Grandma Yellen here is going to get in any trouble? Do you think our loving, caring representatives are going to call the gnome before a congressional committee and try to get her to talk about why this is happening? Absolutely not. You see, because they're all millionaires, multimillionaires, some are billionaires. Oh, those are our overlords, and they want this mechanism to keep on going. Keep that in mind, too, as we move forward. Now, earlier today, I explained to you what's going on here. Okay. The Federal Reserve is the foam. They're drooling all over themselves. Okay, the Fed chairman, the Fed, everyone that's involved in the Fed, the governors, the presidents, they're having big orgies. You have to understand what they're doing here. Tony Clark, thank you. Over what is happening and what is about to happen. They think that you and me don't understand the system, but nobody understands it better than me. The Federal Reserve's balance sheet now at $7.3 trillion. We talked about this earlier. Since 2008, this has skyrocketed. Well, we can all the debt here. We're nearing. Actually, interestingly enough, we'll talk about that in a moment with regard to the debt. Hold that thought. But this is a hyper ballooning mechanism here, and the Federal Reserve gets to pay itself and its member banks interest and dividends on their balance sheet. Assets, debt, their asset. Our loss, their asset. So maybe you guys and girls would be interested in finding this out here. Are you ready? And I want you to look this up for yourself. Don't believe Greg Mannarino. So we understand the Federal Reserve is buying all the debt. They're central banks collectively, but we're going to focus on the Fed, especially because of the tax code with regard to how this works. Okay. Member banks, the more debt the Federal Reserve is able to take on here, obviously, the nicer the dividend is going to be paid out to itself and its member banks. We're on the same page so far. Okay, obviously. And, of course, interest on that as well. Okay, beautiful. The Federal Reserve is going to be cutting rates soon. There's just no doubt about it. Okay. They're already in the market. They're already manipulating it to the highest order, along with the Treasury pumping $800 billion by their manipulation of the debt market as well. Imagine our shock. They win, we lose. Okay. Stephanie, thank you. Thank you so much. So again, the Federal Reserve is going to make an announcement, not tomorrow. I would be shocked if it's tomorrow. Okay. It's not going to be very low percentage, like 30. Okay. Next month it goes up. The month after that's going to go up. We're going to get it soon. But then what that means is they're giving themselves, the Fed, they're giving themselves permission to add as many digits to a screen as they want and buy as much debt as they want to keep rates suppressed, adding to their balance sheet now at $7.3 trillion. It will be at $10 trillion very soon. Now, as that debt balloons on their balance sheets, they get to collect interest on it. They get to pay dividends out to their member banks. Now, going back to the tax code, look this up for yourself. Exemption from taxes. Federal Reserve banks, including the capital stock and surplus therein and income derived therefrom, shall be exempt from federal, state, and local taxation. How is that legal? You and me, We have to, if we don't pay tax on the interest that we earn and our dividends that we earn, we get handcuffs, beautiful handcuffs, and then we get something else over a toilet bowl. You know what I'm talking about here? But the Federal Reserve, again, who came up with that? You let me know, because all of you here are smarter than Greg Mannarino. I'm just going to read this to you again. Exemption from taxes. Federal Reserve banks, including the capital stock, surplus therein, and income derived therefrom, shall be exempt from federal, state, and local taxation. Is this the system that you want? You know what makes me laugh? I wasn't going to mention this, but I will. I had a conversation with a friend of mine from Vegas earlier today. Anyway, look, I'm going to talk about that in a second here, but what we have, if you watch one of these presidential rallies, whether was Biden, now the Kaka Kamala, or the Big T, what they do with 90% of their time is yell and scream about why the other person should not be selected. In this case, they're saying elected as president, but they don't tell you why they themselves should be president. Because you see, they would talk about something like this. They can't do that. They're not allowed to. They should talk about something like this. They're not allowed to. So let me just go over the conversation I had today. Talking to a friend of mine, I haven't talked to him in a while. So he kind of was not happy with me. Hey, Greg, I watch your videos and you're a pretty smart guy. I'm like, thank you. He goes, so why are you so anti-Trump? I'm like, I'm anti-Trump. I said, dude, you know me a long time. Where were you when I was wiping the street with Biden? Like I was up until the moment that he dropped out, and I still do with Kaka Kamala. So where were you then, buddy? He goes, yeah, well, I don't mean to say anything. He goes, but your videos put Trump in a bad light. I'm saying, dude, okay, really? Okay, let's have this conversation. Point to one thing, one, that I haven't said about any of these so-called candidates isn't true. He couldn't come up with one, not even one. So I said, dude, you know what? Maybe we should leave politics to the side. And then I did follow this up with something else. I'm going to lose this guy. That's okay too. You know what? Look, it's fine. If politics is going to get between you and someone that's a so-called friend, they ain't your friend anyway. So my question was, okay, I said, I understand that you love Trump. He's the greatest thing that's ever happened in the history of the world. So tell me why you would like Trump to win. You know what his answer was right off the bat? One thing. It's very interesting to me. He's going to close the borders and kick all the dirty, rotten, effing, black and this and every illegals out of the country. I said, so that's the reason why? That's the only reason why you want this guy? He goes, well, that's the main reason, because they're destroying our nation. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who feel that same way. But again, I think it's more like the Treasury that's destroying our nation, the Federal Reserve who's destroying us all. But again, you can't know about that. They have to take a group of people that pretty much can't defend themselves and point to that. That's your problem. This is why your life is whatever it is. And there are some, like my soon-to-be ex-friend, who I'm certain is watching this. Look, man, I think we're pretty much on the same page here. It's astonishing to me how these freaks, they're all freaks. I hate the system to the core. You all know that. The Kaka Kamalas, the Big T is Damian Thorne. They can't tell you why they should be president, other than maybe kicking out illegals and closing the borders and making up some kind of a story how trickle down economic works, and you're going to benefit from that because they're telling you so. It's just astonishing to me. They can't make a case why they should be selected, in Greg Mannarino's words, but they can tell you why the other person shouldn't be. That's what this is. It's a theater. You understand? And the people there, they're screaming and cheering and rallying about it. Meanwhile, they're being led to the slaughter. It's all deception, because they can't tell you about the Treasury. They can't tell you about the Federal Reserve. They can't tell you how trickle-down economics doesn't work. They can't tell you if we make the rich richer than they are now, that you're going to suffer more. How we are about to see waves of inflation coming in here, more so than we've ever seen before. And how, they're not responsible for this. It isn't the fact that the last 3 presidents the last three, okay, have done more to empower the Federal Reserve than every single president before them combined. Go back to George Washington. Make it up, Jeffrey. Thank you. Anyway, that's just the state of affairs. That's why, look, if you don't see how bad things are and where we are going here, we are so divided. This is divided states of America. People don't know why they should vote for that person, vote for this person, other than the fact that maybe this will happen in their lives. They're going to become some utopian destiny. Meanwhile, they're getting wiped out from the inside. No one's pointing their fingers at the Fed. No one's pointing their finger at the Treasury here. It's always that it's these people's fault. It's those people's fault. It's whatever else's fault. And that should tell you who these people really work for. Understand? Unbelievable. Let us move forward here just a little bit. So I want to read these things to you here and tell me if you think these are on target. This is Henry Ford. It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, this is Henry Ford, I believe that there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. That was Henry Ford. Now, this is President Garfield, who was assassinated. He had this to say: whomever controls the volume of money is absolute master of all industry and commerce. When you realize that the entire system is very easily controlled one way or the other by a few powerful men at the top, you will not have to be told how periods of inflation and depression originate. The entire system is being set up right now, people. Okay. We have, again, the current system, okay, whether it's the Big T or Kaka Kamala, don't have the slightest interest in reining in the Federal Reserve. You have to understand that. And they are the enemy. Bar number one. The enemy number one. They can't let you know that. What you're going to see, Big T, Kaka Kamala, is again what you and I have been talking about forever. Much more currency devaluation. Asset purchases by the Fed, like you can't possibly believe, for which they're going to collect interest on and pay dividends to their member banks. And you and I are being led to the slaughter. Again, this is no accident. Nothing that has happened here is by accident. Everything that is happening before your eyes is deliberate, okay? And we are being brought down to our knees deliberately. The system is being deconstructed around the world, not just here in the United States. Break out of that box that they put you in. The world is not run by the Bidens, the Trumps. It's run by the central banks. They're the ones who are pulling the strings. They're the ones who are telling the Big T to shut his mouth. Maybe he got a warning a couple of weeks back. Maybe Kaka Kamala too. She's another one. They can't tell you this stuff. You're not allowed to know. So it's the big show. It's a deception. It's telling you why that other person should not be president. Can't tell you why they're going to be president. They can't say that. Because again, it's the divided nation. It's like watching it's a game on an incredible scale. Anyway, let us move forward again off of this kind of stuff. So economic news today. This isn't going to surprise anyone. U.S. job openings edge lower. Wait a minute. I thought our economy was booming. And I thought we were the envy of the world. Isn't what that mummified president said? He did say that, didn't he? So U.S. job openings are lower in June. Meanwhile, new home prices hit an all-time record high, and home affordability hits a new all-time record low. That's how good we're doing. We're being destroyed. Rising U.S. debt surpasses $35 trillion. $35 trillion. Has Kaka Kamala told you how they're going to how thing creature is going to fix it? How about the Big T or Damian Thorne, his sidekick over there? Have they told you how they're going to fix it? Whatever they do, this is going to get much worse because they work for the Fed. And how do you know they work for the Fed? No one's pointing their fingers at the Fed. Let me ask you, now that this has come to light, Do you think Kaka Kamala or the Big T is going to point their finger at this thing here? Oh, she's getting replaced. There's no doubt about it. And a couple of the people that are in the running are way worse than it, just so you know. And they're hiding that. That's being kept in the back for now, because I think that's going to really, it's just, again, people, they're going to make every excuse imaginable. But again, until these things, and they're all things, part of the system that is rigged against us, start to tell us the truth. That's all I want to hear. I know that's what you want to hear too. I don't want to hear the blame game here. I want to hear about solutions. They have none. That's why you don't hear about it. All we're going to hear is about, we need to cut the corporate tax rate. This is the big T, to 15%. They're not profitable enough. These multinational corporations, trillions in profit. Well, if we make them even more profitable than they are, whether, of course, maybe they'll hire a few of you flunkies out here to do maybe the sweep the street in front of the building. Oh, yes, that's great for our economy. You know it is. Let's make the rich richer, and then it'll trickle down on you. You're being urinated on. You do realize that, right? And people are cheering, yes, I'm going to get urinated on. It's going to be beautiful. Anyway, speaking of getting urinated on, let's talk about our lovely friend here, Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer called the bottom on CrowdStrike 2 days ago. CrowdStrike cratered today into the 12%. What did I tell you? Anybody, I don't care if you are Jim Cramer or someone who thinks they're Jim Cramer, is trying to call tops and bottoms in the market, you're listening to an imbecile of the highest possible order. Jim deserves all the flack he's going to get for this. Jim, you listen to me, buddy? Don't do this anymore. You're leading people to the slaughter. You can't do it. You're not smart enough. Unless, of course, Jim was hoping people were going to pile on there and he was going to short it. Could have done that too, but you wouldn't know about that, would you? Yeah, good one, Jim. Beautiful. Anyway, with regard to what's happening here, people, again, this is not just squiggly lines. You're watching the 10-year yield today, it is dropping. Who's buying all the debt other than the Treasury manipulating it along with the Federal Reserve? But you're not supposed to know that. No. This mechanism here is going to continue until it doesn't. Now, I want to bring one other thing to your attention before I let you go, and we'll take some questions here. You guys are awesome here. So, with regard to this guy, we need to keep our eye on Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin. I personally don't like what I'm seeing here with Bitcoin. It is right now, I think, Bitcoin, it's very volatile. I get that. But if we start to see, Bitcoin is going to be an indicator as well as to who will actually be selected here. Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know about being smart. All of you are way smarter than I am. I'm just sitting here talking. And with regard to my looks, not too bad for an almost 60-year-old guy, right? I'm going to be 60 next year. I'm in my 60th year now. It's amazing, isn't it? Let's keep our eyes on Bitcoin here. All right. The market is still telling me Trump is going to win, regardless of what everyone else is saying. I know there's some pretty big names out there, including one of my good friends here, Joe Salente, who doesn't believe that. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I am willing to change my position depending on. I only make these calls I make, not because, again, I am hoping and praying that Donald Trump is going to win because he's the savior and he walks on water. Yeah, no. I base it on what I believe are the facts. That is, I'm looking at what the market is telling us. Now, let me just, there's a lot of people. I read the comments. The market is not infallible. Can we establish that? Okay. The market is the collective consciousness of, well, every single investor. And you too. If you're every person on this planet Earth, I mean, the dollar, the euros, these are all tradable assets. The entire market is what I'm talking about here. You all participate in it. You all go to the store and buy things and you're swiping, and maybe you're using cash too, or you're buying cars and houses and signing cash into existence. You're all part of it. We are all part of the market. Can we establish that? Okay. The market, the collective consciousness of the market it's a language. The market it was, at least, and is still telling me that Trump will be selected. But I am willing to look at the dynamics moving forward and change that position. We all have to be that way. I mean, just for example, let me give you an example of something. Let's say someone buys stock XYZ. Okay, they believe that stock XYZ is going to rise because Jim Cramer. Let's set up a scenario. Jim Cramer just said 2 days ago that the bottom was in for CrowdStrike, and you're one of those people who believe that Jim was correct. Jim was right, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to go buy CrowdStrike. I'm going to buy shares of CrowdStrike, and you just took a big loss like this. You might tend to stay in there because the big, lofty, beautiful man, Jim Cramer, said that it's going to go up. You will sit in that trade till you lose 20, 30, 40, 50% before you wake up and say, you know what? I better. Let me give you a little tidbit of information here from my new Lions. Okay. Your first loss generally is your smallest. If you hold on to a bad position, all right, and you wait for that thing to turn around because you believe you're sticking to your guns. You believe with all you got that Jim Cramer is going to be right, or whoever it might be. You're going to be right. You're going to stick with that trade. You're going to get wiped out. You got to be willing to get out of a bad position. You're never going to win all your trades. I don't care who you are. Okay, you could be the greatest trader or investor who's ever been born in the history of the world or anywhere else. You are going to suffer losses. And anyone that tells you different is a freaking liar. Nobody wins 100% of the time, every freaking day. It's impossible to do. Stan, are we on the same page here? So you have to be willing, in any aspect of life, to readjust your thinking. Okay? You can't sit there because you believe of something just because. You have to be willing to look at what the facts may be and at the time, and what the facts may be at the time could actually change, believe it or not. People are very interesting. They'll look at, let's say, look, for me, for example, I'm willing to look at what the facts presented to me are at any particular time and then reevaluate it later. In life, as I said recently, you're going to take on a lot. You can take on a lot of things, and at that time, it may seem like the greatest thing in the history of the world. But you should also be willing to, as time moves on, maybe shrug it off or push it away. You know what I'm trying to say? Life ain't that complicated, really. Anyway, people, look, I think we covered a lot here. The fact of the matter is, let me just say this, and this is no secret to anybody that follows this blog here. We're going to be facing a moment here in time that people are not going to believe. This hyper debt, this manipulation of the debt market from the Treasury and the Federal Reserve and our loving, caring representatives who couldn't give a damn about you and me. Let me ask you something. Do you think a sitting president, someone running for office, cares more about you or their own family members who they realize where this is all going? They would dump you under a bus, stomp on your face, and slice your throat to save any member of their family. Okay, and that's what they're doing here. They're putting themselves in the right spot. Meanwhile, deceiving all of you on an epic scale because they're the person that should be selected here. All they're going to do, let me explain this to you. These people are going to become super rich, beyond the part of the 1% and the 2% super elite that you all don't seem to like very much. That's who they are already. They're both Kaka Kamala's a multi-millionaire. Trump is a multi-billionaire. I don't personally think that these are the kind of people we need. Okay. We need like the regular guy or the regular girl, someone that has a functioning brain to actually, well, it'll never happen because again, it's a system run by the elite for the elite. And they know how to twist your brain and your thought patterns and say the right things to make you believe that, well, maybe they're even the second coming. And they got people by the balls. I can't say that word out here, but I just did. Is that such a bad word? Testicles? Scrotums? I don't know. All right, people, look, I think that you and I pretty much got this down here with regard to to everything that's happening here. We got to believe in ourselves, each other, and obviously, above all that, the Father of all creation. I think we're pretty much on the same page. But and understand who our enemies really are, and they're right in front of us, and people can't see it. They never can see it. They never can. And they've been. If you look back on history, it's always the same. It's these kind of people that lead us to the greatest fall of them all, and they can't stop it. Again, they're playing right into it, as you know. It's pretty much in our face. Exactly. Become your own central bank. Become your own bank. Why do we have to participate in their system? Because we're forced to. You understand that? They don't want you in Bitcoin. Trump seems to. Okay, I'll give him that. I'll give the man some credit here where credit's due. He understands, I think, at least that there is enormous growth in this space. I personally believe that. And but with regard to everything else, you got to get out of their system. Bitcoin, I used to believe that, look, again, going back to things that you take on and things that you put off. Cryptocurrencies, just as an example, I was against this stuff just like Trump was in the beginning. I didn't understand it. I came around to listening to some pretty smart people and doing my own research. And I found that this is a potential space for people to at least allow the twisted system to work for them. The best place to me is this, people, look, is gold and silver. I don't care, frankly, if you own any Bitcoin. I think people should have some in their portfolio. There's your number one asset you ever want to own right there. I can't tell you this enough. I can't. If you need to be overweight your portfolio, one thing, it's this. And I don't pull this out of a hat. I say this because I look at a few metrics, and I told you this a million times. I look at the Dow gold ratio, gold silver ratio. Think about where we are now, where the actual bottom is for the Dow when we get this meltdown in the debt market here, which is going to issue in the new system. They're hyperinflating the current system deliberately, only to bring you and me to our knees. We're going to face that moment of a credit locking up of the credit markets. Again, that was the real problem last time. No one knows that, but you do. Why is it? Let's just think for a moment here. When Ben Bernanke went to our loving, caring members of Congress and said specifically that if they didn't pump the economy over the weekend with billions of dollars to pump the markets full of cash, we would not have an economy on Monday. Those were his words. And our loving, caring representative said, "Oh, yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir, we're going to do that." And that's when we got forced to bail out the system. Okay. The reason for that wasn't because the market was crashing. Oh no, my 401k got cut in half. That's really what happened. People lost everything. Okay. Of course, people didn't want that. They wanted those capital injections into the system. They bitched and moaned about having to bail out the system, but they wanted those investments back so they could be rich on paper. That's what they wanted. That's what you wanted, right? Of course you did. But you didn't think about what was really going on. What was really going on is they were trying to free up the credit markets. Those capital injections into the system had nothing to do with propping up the stock market, although it hasn't reinflated the biggest bubble in the history of the world has ever seen. What it really was about was freeing up the credit markets. Interbusiness lending was stopping to flow. The system was locking up. It was shutting down. That means you went to your bank, you couldn't get a single dime out of it. You went to your ATM, no cash. Zeros across the screen, gone. The system operates on fairy dust. You understand? It's not real. It's imaginary. But the imaginary system is being propped up, and it's being rigged by people like that. You have no idea, people, how many times I've called this lady out and told, "Greg, how could you pick on a nice old lady like that?" People think that she's beautiful. Not me. I don't even think it's human. Anyway, people, look, man. So with regard to what they're going to do to us here, quite simply, is, again, another locking up of the system. And this time they can't fix it. They don't want to fix it. We are being brought down forcefully and deliberately as the debt is inflated even more. Because the system is going to implode on itself by design. They want us to on our knees, as low down as it can possibly get us down, on our knees, so they can tell us how they're going to save us all. You understand? That's what they're going to. They already have their new system. They already do. 100% digital, central bank digital currency. They have it. We're already pretty much 99% have a digital system. You all know that. Anyway, all right, people, look, I'm going to get going here. I really thank you for being here. And I want you to think about the things we've spoken about here. And if honestly you get something out of these videos, and I think we're on the same page for the most part. All right. This guy here loved you from the heart with all I got. With that said, people, I will see all of you in the morning. So please take care of yourselves and take care of each other.